Our inbox this morning, Michael, is full of people saying that this protest should be banned this weekend. But Andrew is quite clearly said he doesn't like to ban things ordinarily, but he feels this is an exception. I'm very conflicted about this because I think protesting is part of our liberal democracy and we should be allowed to do it.
Yeah, well, in a way, you're both right. I think my view would be that if the march is on Saturday, although I think it is a great discourtesy to hold this march on the Armistice weekend, if it is on Saturday, if it is at a different time from other events, and if it's in a different place, I should think it would be quite difficult for the police or the Home Secretary to ban it. However, one argument could be that the resources of the police are just not up to it. And I think the government is very worried about the idea that there could be violence, which would be an image projected from Britain at a time when Britain is meant to be commemorating its war dead from so many different conflicts. And of course, that will not be averted if the march is banned, because people will still turn up, and then the police will try to enforce the ban, which undoubtedly will lead to violence. So I don't think there's a very easy answer to this. It's most unfortunate that this proposal has been made in the first place. But like you, I think if it's on a different day and in a different place, it's tricky to ban it, although the police resources point might be a genuine one. Because after all, on the Sunday, we've got to defend the royal family, the cabinet, and next year's cabinet.
But the 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock on Saturday, Michael, very important, symbolic, sombre, silent, respectful. The idea that we could have hundreds of thousands of people banging their drums and blowing their trumpets and chanting slogans so close to the cenotaph. And I think they would get close to the cenotaph. I think there's no doubt about it. I just think it seems inappropriate and disrespectful is the word I'm probably looking for.
It's inappropriate and disrespectful, and that is not quite the same as saying that it ought to be banned.
No.
And, of course, the cenotaph has to be defended. We can't have His Majesty going to a cenotaph that's been daubed with slogans the day before. That is absolutely impossible. However, I mean, if there were a football match on Saturday and the fans, you know, on the trains coming down to London or whatever, were not observing the 11 o'clock silence, that would also be undignified and offensive, but nonetheless it wouldn't be banned.
And that already happens, of course.
And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because should it be in the gift of the Home Secretary to ban this, or up down to the police chief? I feel rather sorry for Sir Mark Rowley, the Metropolitan Police, which I don't very often. Because he's under such huge pressure.
No, I entirely agree with you, because, you know, he's damned either way. But I think the official position is they make the recommendation, which then leads to an order by the Home Secretary, which is then enforced by the police. So when he makes his recommendation, he's got to think about the balance between being asked to police very different events over the same weekend against the provocation of the march being banned, which would probably lead to a more violent situation.
Let me ask you another question. You're a former Defence Secretary. Boris Johnson has gone out to Israel. We've got an interview with him. Obviously, Bev thinks he shouldn't be there. Waste of time, getting in the way. I say, why not? He's a former Prime Minister, high profile. Don't always disagree, quite often. But draws attention, he's drawing attention to the fact that Britain's got to continue to stand foursquare with Israel. What's your view?
My view yesterday was I was astonished that someone who wasn't even a Member of Parliament had gone to see the IDF and was being treated at quite a high level. However, in the clip that I saw just a few moments ago, in which he's making an argument that I would make, and that argument is that somehow the world has quickly moved on from the atrocities of October the 7th and arrived at a situation of moral equivalence where they say, well, this crime matches that crime.
Yeah.
He is denouncing that, and I denounce that too. And people do listen to Boris. I mean, that's one of the reasons why this has...
You look surprised.
No, it's one of the reasons why this channel is going to take him on. It's one of the reasons why he won a majority of 80. It's one of the reasons why, when he worked with the Conservative Party, they won elections with huge majorities, because people listened to him. So actually, I think the Israelis have been wiser than I was yesterday. That is to say, I would have said, oh no, who's this fellow? He's not even a backbencher. But no, he's a person whose voice carries around the world.
Yeah.
Is it a distraction, though, Michael? Because also, it is that there is rather a lot to do out there, and he needs to be kept safe in that environment as well. You don't think that... I mean, what's in it for him? What's in it for him to go out there?
Oh, well, for him, I think ego, you know, that feeling that he still plays a part on world affairs. But let me tell you what's in it for the Israeli Defence Forces. For Israel, it is vital to have the United Kingdom and the United States on board, and as many European Union countries as well, and, if it were possible, to have their voters on board as well. And so if they have to devote a bit of effort to protecting Boris. But Boris appears on our channel and on every other channel telling people not to forget October the 7th. There is such a premium. I mean, that's publicity they can't buy.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the fact that he's reminding people of the events of October the 7th, and I think that is absolutely critical to do. But do you think what he's asking for is to see this conflict as starting on that day? Because, of course, all those people who will protest this weekend will say, that's not when this conflict started. This is decades old. And therefore, the moral equivalence argument is debatable.
Well, I don't think it is debatable.
I don't think it is debatable.
Of course, things didn't start on October the 7th, but what happened on October the 7th is not explained by, and certainly not justified or condoned by or excused by anything that went before. It was an act of savage barbarism against Jewish people, and specifically it was about slaughtering them, humiliating them, torturing them, raping them, capturing them, burning their bodies. I mean, absolutely appalling. And I would slightly put it the other way around and say, you know, for decades I put up with people who said, oh, these Israelis, they've built these terrible fences and walls. I've seen these fences and walls. They are an offence to human nature. It's so horrible to think you have to divide people in today's world by fences and walls. But my goodness, I now feel that these walls weren't strong enough and those fences weren't high enough.
Yeah, and those defence forces weren't alert enough, sadly, on October the 7th.
True, but again, that sounds like you're kind of distributing blame.
Oh, no.
I certainly wouldn't go that way.
No, it's horrific.